shell. Hey there, come out of your shell.
Hi, and welcome to Out of Our Shell, the podcast with your two hosts, Liv and Amber. We're the podcast that's going to be bringing you some amazing guests, some great topics that matter to our community, and we're going to try and have a little bit of fun along the way. And speaking of amazing guests, we have Ash Costa today with us. And Liv, why don't you tell us a little bit about why you asked Ash to be on the pod?
Yeah, thanks, Amber. I think that the embodiment of this show is community, and I think that what comes along with a community is we all have different talents, we all have different strengths, and we all just have something different to offer. And Ashley, is a fashion designer. She's a mother of two beautiful girls. And I think that she kind of just embodies that first step in exploring what our community is. And so I'm excited to talk to her and interview her and get to have her tell her story and what it's like to be in the fashion design industry from a transgender perspective.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a good interview. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. It sounds really great. I'm looking forward to hearing more from her. And we'll do that after the break. You ready, Liv?
Let's do it.
Hi, it's Amber again, and today joining me I have Kelly Viviani from the Loft Hair Studio, and I wanted to bring Kelly on because I want to thank you, Kelly, for donating to our Trans Day of Visibility event that we had at Patty's a couple of weeks ago. You helped us raise a lot of money, so thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been going to see you since the very beginning of my transition when I had a big old bald spot on the back of my head. We bleach the fuck out of my hair every single month, but yet it's still really, really healthy, and I absolutely love it. And there's no breakage, no split ends. How do you keep my hair so healthy, Kelly?
I think you have good hair to begin with.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Just a lot of moisturizing, a lot of Mika products, love a Mika, super moisturizing,
absolutely.
but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you do an absolutely amazing job with my hair, and I'm just so thankful. And not only that too, but the salon itself is such a welcoming environment. And even from the very beginning, it was such an amazing experience being trans and going into this very female dominated space and to be so welcoming there. Tell me a little bit about the salon, the ownership, like how you feel about all that as well.
I feel like at the salon, we're like a big family.
Yeah.
Like everybody that comes in, it's welcoming. Even like the vibe of the salon, it's super like laid back. It doesn't feel like super monochromatic. Like, oh, should I sit here? Should I not? No, you can like sit down on the couch. You can pass out on the couch. A lot of guys do when they're waiting for their girlfriends or wives. I think we're just like a big family. We're very welcoming. Like usually there's like that stereotype of like, oh, the girls are bitches and they're gonna fight at the salon and have drama. No, we never had any of that. We're pretty cool, calm, share each other's food. We're fine.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really great environment. And I know that you had mentioned wanting to do something kind of special for our listeners if they decide to book an appointment with you here in Los Angeles. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, so if you book an appointment through me, I will include a free little makeover. So get your hair blown out nice and add some makeup and you leave the salon looking good. Better make plans that day, like a date night or hang out with the girls.
Absolutely. And you've done up my makeup as well for some of my events along with my hair. So highly recommend. Kelly is good at both. So we're going to put Kelly's information there. Best way for everybody to contact you, DM you on Instagram at Anything But Basic Kelly?
Yes.
Awesome. So go ahead and DM her at Anything But Basic Kelly. Go get your hair done and she'll throw in a free mini makeover. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kelly. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So, as mentioned earlier, we have Ashley Costa with us. And I met Ashley through a live on Instagram. And it was one of the first lives I ever jumped on. And she was on there with some other girls. And I jumped on and I didn't have a whole lot to say. But I do remember her saying something along the lines of just be you and be fabulous and be confident. And I don't know, it was something you said. It was along those lines, and I'm paraphrasing obviously a little bit here, but I don't know. It was neat, and so you kind of stuck, in my head here. And so when we were thinking of a guest to bring on, you were one that came to mind, and
Thank
so
you. I
yeah.
appreciate it.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us about your pronouns first?
She, her.
She, her.
I go by
Good.
she, her. Yeah.
Okay. And so what nationality are you?
I was born in South America, in Brazil.
Okay. And how was when you look back and you think about your childhood and how it connects you to where you are today, give us a little bit of storyline on that.
In life in general, or as it pertains to my transition?
As it pertains to your transition, yes.
Oh, well, I've, I've traveling back in time after I transitioned. I've done a lot of reflecting, and I've dug out a lot of memories that I were hidden. Uh, and I started remembering the other day how, as a little kid, at the age of like maybe 4 or 5, I remember I have memories of myself trying on, like going to. I had a lot of female cousins, so going to their houses and trying on their clothing at the age of like 4 or 5, not feeling any guilt or any negative feelings towards it because I didn't really have an understanding that I was biologically male, that I was uh, a boy. I just didn't really have that understanding. I just knew who I was. I
Yeah.
knew that I was alive. I knew that I was a kid. I knew that I wanted to wear girly things.
Hmm.
I was very much attracted towards things that are more conventionally and traditionally female, such as call it pink.
Yeah.
Not that those things are necessarily only for girls, but those are the things that I was mostly attracted to. So I would go to my cousins' houses and like try on their skirts and twirl around as any little girl would do. And Barbie dolls. I had an obsession with Barbie dolls. Loved going to my friend's house. My mom had a friend who had these 2 daughters, and they had a blonde and a brunette Barbie doll. And I remember being obsessed with those dolls, going to uh, my mom's friend's house with her just because of the dolls.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting because I have 2 daughters. And when my first daughter was born, I remember buying her. At one point, she had like over like 30 Barbie dolls that I bought. And I think it was a bit of like me buying for myself. And that's
Yeah.
when I wasn't even transitioning yet. But I was just obsessed and I loved it. And I thought that my daughter would love it too. And
Uh,
she never cared as much as I did. Uh, but, and
and I guess we didn't go into since you're kind of mentioning it prior transit. How long ago did you begin your transition?
I began my exploring my femininity in 2020, 2019, before COVID. Uh, but again, I was still, I was coming from a life of identifying as straight. I've lived many lives. Uh, the one previous to transitioning was I was married to a woman, and I was identifying at the time as straight, hetero,
Mm-hmm.
cis men. And so coming from that, I was figuring myself out. It's really hard to say like the point. Like I usually use the medical transition as like a start point because I think that
Mm-hmm.
simplifies everything. I started on hormones in December of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it 2 years and what's that, like 4 months?
Yeah.
Uh, Precisely from the time that I took my first like estrogen pill. Uh, but before that, I was already taking steps uh, and exploring the idea. Really afraid of it, uh, but I was exploring the idea. I was letting my hair
Yeah.
grow. I was doing everything that I could for laser hair removal. I started like waxing, then doing laser all over my body.
Uh-huh.
So like all of those little things, that's really funny because when you're transitioning at first, like every little step you take seems to be like so big, right? Like I think it's really cute when some of my friends, at the beginning stages, like they pierce their ears for the first time. And for
Yeah.
them, it's like big deal, and
Yeah.
you kind of forget that a little bit. So as time kind of goes,
Yeah.
so like yeah, so I started taking those steps in 2019, but I was never really brave enough to start taking estrogen until 2020, 2021, end of 2021, December of 2021. That's when I took my first pill, and I stopped. I took it, and then I stopped for
Yeah.
like a few weeks because like my breasts started to like hurt, and I
Oh
started
yeah.
noticing growth. And at the time, I still lived with my ex-wife. So I was still doing everything kind of like on my own. I didn't want to scare anyone. It was really complex
Mm-hmm.
because I was in a stage in of my life where um, I was extremely depressed and having suicidal thoughts. Which is a very common
Yeah.
story for a lot of us who don't transition at an early age.
Uh-huh.
So when you have like when you've built a life a certain way, it's really hard to dismantle all of that. You don't want to dismantle any of that, right?
Yeah.
It feels
That's what holds
safe.
us back, right? That's what holds
Yeah,
us back
Yeah.
is not wanting
Yeah.
to.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
It's it's very it's funny because it's like a dichotomy, right? Like it's really uncomfortable living as a character
Mm-hmm.
that is not really you,
yeah.
but it's also really scary dropping the mask
Yeah.
and taking the steps to become this person you are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's like a big scary thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
So
yeah, so I
when
was
you
coming from that point of like being extremely depressed. I'm sorry, Olivia.
no. I think you're kind of leading up to, you know, kind of coming out, right? And you kind of, I think this show is called, Out of Our Shell for a reason, and I think you get to that point to where um, it's almost a life or death situation.
Yes,
And,
indeed.
and so when you did finally come out, how was that?
Yeah. Coming out was also something complicated, and again, I don't think like it's really hard to give a date. I came out on that day because everything with me has been a process. Like I'm very slow to make decisions. I usually do a lot of research. I usually think a lot uh, about the consequences of everything I'm going to do, and I try every possible way to not like to avoid pain, especially causing pain. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
empathetic.
Uh-huh.
I think I had mentioned to Olivia before. Like I was raised. My mom. I don't want to label her as a narcissistic, but she had some narcissistic traits, And when you are a kid of a narcissistic parent, you become very aware of other people's energy, and you do so much reading of others, you know, that and then what makes you feel safe is catering to their needs, and in that process you leave your own in the background. Like, it's the opposite of being selfish, where everything is about you. It's like you feel safety. Your source of safety is pleasing others. So I became a people pleaser, and that led me to make a lot of decisions in my life that weren't necessarily what I wanted or needed. Because I got in relationships, starting with my mom, then later on a boyfriend. When I came out to my parents as a gay boy when I was 16, because I was dating this guy. And so, like, that was my first coming out, right? I didn't think that transitioning, I didn't have the words for me, like, I didn't really have an understanding of my own gender, you know? I knew I was very feminine. I enjoyed feminine things, but I learned to suppress that because of my mother, you know, because as I was saying, at the age of 4, 6, I remember like playing with dolls and all the traits of like all the stereotypical things a girl likes and does is what I did. And my mom noticed that. And she reprehended me for that. And I very early on learned that femininity wasn't okay, that I needed to behave as a boy. Uh, and and I started noticing as well as at the time how uncomfortable with my body I was. Like, I used to tuck my parts when I was like 6, 7, because that made more sense to me. But again, because of my mom reprehending me, I learned how to block it or to ignore it, right?
Yeah.
And then I took on the male character, and then I met this guy at the age of 16, and I started dating him. And he, even though he was gay, he was very homophobic and very LGBT phobic, I would say. I think that there was a lot of self hate because he was a very masculine looking man, but he was a little flamboyant in his behavior whenever he let loose. And I think there was a lot of self hate for that because he didn't like that about himself. So whenever he noticed femininity in me, he would also reprehend me. So I learned very, in my teen years, that was not good for him.
Yeah.
I needed to be masculine for him. And I dated him from the age of, and he was older than me. He was like 24. I was 16. From the age of 16 to about 20, I dated him. And then we broke up. And then with my confusion, gender, sexuality, I started going to church. I was raised a Christian. And, I was seeking to be set free from those tendencies. And I did a good job for several years. And in this process, I met my ex-wife, and she knew. I had told her everything about myself. She knew about my gender confusion at the time and my sexuality. She knew I had dated a guy for 4 years. But long story, I'm going to make it short. We decided to get married at the time. I was very vulnerable, very young. I have a tendency to date people who are older than me. It's funny because it's usually like a 9-year gap, 8 to 9 year gap. And she was older than me. She had lived more life than I had. And I was alone in the U.S. because at that point I was here. No family, not a lot of friends. I used to work a lot and go to school. I was trying to get my degree. And I found myself in a place where I was really vulnerable. And we ended up getting married. And she pretty much convinced me that marriage was the best thing for me at the time. And again, my extremely empathetic side allowed for her to influence me that way. And not to put it on her because I accepted, right? Like, she convinced me, but I said yes. She didn't put a gun to my head or anything. Uh, but at that age, I think you're still very like easy to influence,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're vulnerable. And I allowed for that to happen. So we ended up getting married, and and then I focused a lot from there on being the best partner that I could be. You know, I hate being mediocre. Everything that I do, I like giving it my best. And at the time, being married and being straight, cisgender male was the project, right? It was what was right to do. Um, and my goal became to make her happy. And in order to occupy my mind and take my mind off of my internal issues, I decided to focus on chasing my dream job, my career, and which it is in fashion.
Mm-hmm.
I've I had already worked in fashion during my teens, from the age of like 18 to 20, and I decided to go to school, get a degree, which I did at the time, living in Massachusetts, and I occupied my mind with that. Like I at one point had a full-time job, was going to school, and then I would pick up shifts on the weekend. Um, and that worked. Like I was able to put this whole gender identity confusion that I had and the sexuality thing to the side. And I did a good job, but you can only keep your head under water for so long before you have to put your head above water to take a breath. And that is what from time to time, I would do that.
Hey,
But then
Ash, I've got a question for you, if you don't mind me jumping in just real quick.
no, it's
So,
fine.
for a lot of us, there was kind of like a catalyst that, like, was the moment where it was like, okay, this is something that I've actually got to start to address. For a lot of us, it was time alone during COVID, but you were a pre-COVID transition baby. So what was your catalyst? What all of a sudden was kind of like that moment where you were like, okay, I got to start doing something about this. I'm going to actually move forward with this in my life.
I think that it was the depression. Yeah, with the analogy of like keeping your head below the water, I think my head was in the water for so long that I needed
Breathe.
air.
Yeah.
I needed to breathe, and I tried. I was really desperate. It wasn't a pretty story, in my attempt to be a good husband and to be that character that she wanted for me to be, uh, I, 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 I shut myself off from everything and everyone. I didn't have friends.
Yeah.
The friends I had were the friends that she had, and I didn't have anyone that I could feel free to speak about my issues. So I had no friends, no one to talk about it with anyone. Like I had to do a lot of the thinking by myself in my own head.
Of course, yeah.
So I was extremely depressed, and that's when I would take those dives, like deep dives into like sorrow and sadness, and I think I told Olivia that story. Driving home, and I was in a stage in my life. I got to a stage where like we had everything. We had the house, we had two beautiful daughters, we had the pet. I had, a six-figure salary, and I was doing what I loved for a living. Um, Everything was perfect. Church on the weekend, the whole like American
It was
dream,
picture
perfect
perfect. Yeah.
situation. Yeah, but
Yeah.
because I am so empathetic, I was doing a lot of sacrificing my own sanity to make that happen. And at the time, the math that I was doing in my head, like it made sense because in my head I'm thinking, I mean, everyone around me is happy. My mother is happy. My my then wife, was happy. Everyone was happy. Everyone looked up to me as someone like this, like Latina, or at the time Latino, immigrant kid who left Brazil in her teens and moved to America to in search of the American dream and achieved it. like starting from scratch.
Yeah.
So everyone looked up to me as like this, you know, saint, this like picture of perfection, type A person who is an achiever and
Yeah.
was able to actually achieve uh, his personal goals. Um, but I was dead inside. None of it made sense because it was like building a castle on sand. The foundation was not correct. It just wasn't right, you know?
Yeah.
But again, at the time, it made sense because everyone's happy,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's a lot of
So
pressure, and
if I'm the only one that isn't happy, so it makes sense, right? Like, it sounds right. And one person isn't happy, but everyone else is. So I should stay in this situation. That's how I thought at the time. But it got to a point where my depression and my sadness surpassed this logic. And again, I do have two kids. I got to a point where I thought to myself, you know, the math changed. I thought to myself, I either, like, I have to address it, I have to do something about it. So now I either kill myself and lose everything, my kids lose everything, or I give this a shot and I might not be the traditional parent, you know, the dad, the traditional father, but I'm still gonna be a parent, and I'm gonna be alive, and my kids are going to have me still, maybe in a different packaging, right? But
and happier.
and happier, but a better version of me because then I am actually
Absolutely.
happy, and I am, and it's so amazing to be able to now, you know, like this past weekend with my daughter, we went shopping, my oldest one, and like try on clothes together, and like we went to Sephora at one point, and we are trying makeup together, and she's giving me hints on like, or like her opinion on what was good and what was not, and I remember at one point trying on this eyeshadow, this holographic eyeshadow, and then I was like, oh, I gotta wipe this off because I look like a drag queen now. And she's like, no, you don't look like a drag queen. You just look pretty. You know, like that was such a small comment, but to me, it was like I just felt so much joy for the fact that she, because that was a big fear of me, right? A big fear I had was like disrupting their peace, bringing confusion to their lives, and robbing them from that figure. You know, I might not be a figure of masculinity, but honestly, I was never uh, masculine even before.
Right.
Because of the industry that I work in, I think that even though I think I tried, uh, my industry allows me to not be the traditional, like it allowed me at the time to not be the traditional male. I didn't have to wear plaid shirts, and uh, you know, it was very normal for me to like wear foundation on my skin before, or like wear more fashionable androgynous pieces sometimes. So like I was never, and even like I play a joke and I say that I was a great wife to my ex-wife because uh, even when I was a husband, because I I was her personal stylist. I was her makeup artist. I was her hairstylist. You know, my ex was like my doll. Like I literally, you know, I would go shopping for her. So I've always felt very comfortable being like in a ladies' department at Macy's or Nordstrom because I've been shopping for her for such a long time, even when I presented male. Uh, that when I transitioned, I didn't have to do a whole lot of learning in those areas because I already exercised those muscles before. Uh, so even for my kids, I think that yes, I don't no longer have a beard, but uh, I, I don't think that there was like a huge change when it came to my behavior. The change was mostly in my looks.
Yeah.
Hey, Ash, just real quick, how old are your kids now?
My kids are 8 and 15, the oldest one.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then so they were probably about like what, like maybe like 4 and 11 or so when you started this process. Is that about
Yes,
right? Okay, all right, great.
yes. I
Yeah,
started really quietly though. Like,
yeah,
again, I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
of course.
I tried for a while to get my ex to understand my need and where it was coming from and understand my pain. And she never really understood it. I think she
Mm-hmm.
understands it better now than she did back then. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think there was a lot at stake. I think that my ex made me, or the person that I was, uh, it's hard to say the person that I was because I'm the same person, but like the person that I was trying to be for her, she made that person, uh, her whole personality became who that person was. I think she
Yeah.
lost a lot of herself
Yeah.
in that character that I played. Uh, she became like the designer's wife,
Mm.
like. So I think that when uh, I started talking about my needs, uh, and my issues, my struggles, the steps that I wanted to take, it was really scary for her,
Yeah.
Got it.
as it would be for anybody, right? I think
Of
that's
course.
really it's understandable that it would be challenging for anyone. I had a lot to do, a lot of processing myself um, before I decided to take the steps to transition. So I give people a lot of grace
Mm-hmm.
because at the same time I needed time. People need time as well to
Mhm.
process this. So, but unfortunately, like we ended up getting divorced, and uh,
Can you kind of let us know like how your relationship is now with your ex and how you co-parent?
well, because we have our two daughters, like we have decided that they are the most important thing.
Mhm.
They are still the one mission that we share together, and so we do everything we can with that, like to stay at peace, and so that they can't and won't be affected by the separation.
Mm.
Because again, my daughters had this family that was picture perfect. The big house, the car, like everything,
Yeah.
the vacations, and all of a sudden, the mom and the dad inside of the house, all of a sudden that was dismantled. So, like for a kid, that can be
Mm-hmm.
a lot to handle. That
Yeah.
can be a lot to handle, and it was. My youngest one, it was a little less impactful on her at the time. I think now is when she's feeling it more because she's a little more mature and she's able to understand things a little bit better now, grasp like those concept, those like more adult
Mm-hmm.
concepts.
Yeah.
As for the oldest one, it was a little more difficult.
Mm.
Uh, so we had to work together quite a bit to make them feel that the love wasn't gone.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I go out to dinner with my ex and the kids. Um, like I currently am dating someone else, um, a cis man, and so like last Thanksgiving, I spent Thanksgiving with him one day, but then early in the day, I went out to lunch with my brunch with my kids and my ex-wife
Mhm.
because I knew that they wanted to go to their grandma later on that day. And so like we're managing things in a way that to make it like not too damaging for the kids,
Yeah.
because kids like safety. They don't like
Yeah.
change. Kids don't like
Yeah.
change. They adapt because they're
Yeah.
very adaptable, but they don't like change. So whenever change happens, it just feels unsafe. And I think it's the same for us grown-ups, right? Like we feel
Yeah. Of
unsafe
course.
with like changes, but kids even more. So our focus has been to show them that they're loved and that I love their mom and their mom loved me and that we are not at war with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still like that love connection going on between the four of us. So
Yeah.
there's no need for pain, things haven't changed. I even spoke to my oldest daughter. The way I explained myself to her was that babe, I'm still the same, you know,
Yeah.
person that I was before.
Yeah.
You know that my behavior, you know, nothing has changed. My character, my personality, still love you the same way. Uh, Nothing changed except for my shell. Uh, that is the only thing that has changed because I feel more comfortable with the shell that I'm in right now than the one I was in before. So I try to make sure that they understood that the changes were very superficial and not really at the foundation, you know, so everything remains the same for them.
Yeah.
But it's incredible how kids are. Like they, you know, at one point my daughter asked me, so like, how are we going to pay our bills? And I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm still here. Like, I'm still like here and I love you. And don't worry about money. But it's funny that her mind would go there. You
I
know,
think
she
that
was thinking, oh, you're not, you know, I'm gonna.
it's a
She was
product. I think it's.
questioning that,
I
which
think it's a product of our society. It's how trans women are viewed in our society, and what happens, to trans women, and what options are available to them. So I think that that was probably where her fear was coming from. I mean,
probably.
I personally, one of the things that absolutely held me back is I was in a profession as well where, I was making good money for myself. Like, we had everything that we needed to have, and life was good. And you do worry, with what society tells us happens. Will I be sacrificing this? Like, and so you do start slow. You dip your foot in the pool little by little by little, to kind of see what kind of ripples that you make. But obviously everything turned out, fairly well for you here in this situation. It looks like you're doing amazing with your career and everything. Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, tell us.
And also tell us maybe so you're in this industry and everything, which does have the ability to give you some flexibility as far as maybe a little bit of gender bending. Like, how was it as you kind of stopped bending the gender and actually dove headfirst into it?
It was a little. It's complex.
Okay.
It's to be honest, like the owners of the company that I designed for, that I work for, because I work in bridal, and I designed for a bridal company that distributes gowns all over the world, like all over Europe, Australia, Canada. I think we are over like 800 stores in the U.S. And so and I'm one of like 4 designers they have. Yeah, we have multiple labels, so like it's distributed in a way that like I have 3 labels that I designed for, being my focus being in 2 of a certain price point. But I had to come out to them. I came out to my VP first. Um, because again, before when I was married, like I tried being, I thought that like me, even though I was very feminine in a way, I think that I was telling myself that I wasn't so much that my designer friends that I work with, I hang out with them a lot. Like before COVID, we used to travel nationally and internationally a lot, especially when we went to Europe, into Asia. We would be together for 10 days straight, nonstop, even with the owner of the company, because she came with us every time. My VP, who I have known for 10 years now, I've been working for this company for 10 years, designing bridal. And so they knew me from before. And I remember when they came out, they said, well, like, no surprise. But for me, I thought that I was doing a good job at hiding.
Yeah, I think we all thought we were doing a good job at hiding it, right?
Yes.
So, like, for me, it was a bit of a, like, I was like, really? Like, so you suspected? And they were like, yeah, and yes. So, but it still had to come out, and I came out to my VP because, again, I was at that stage. I came out to them 2 years ago. Like, I was already transitioning medically, so it hasn't even been long. For a long time, I was holding off from like coming to work. I was very androgynous still. Like, again, hair was growing. I wore makeup. But it was still like a very, in my perception, very masculine look.
Sure.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
I now question whether
I
that
bet you
really
had
was
everybody
masculine.
fooled.
Yes. But yeah, but I still had to come out. So I came out to my VP. I was at a stage where I was like, you know what? Like I can't hide it. Like it's
Hmm.
becoming really difficult. I think I had been on hormones for like 3, 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And the girls were like starting to grow.
Yeah.
And I remember going to visiting a client. So when I visit clients, I usually do like trunk shows where I
Hmm.
do like meet and greets with brides, and I help them like choose their gown and all that. Uh, and I remember coming to this one store in LA, in Glendale, and the owners asking the person that I was traveling with whether I was transitioning or not. And in my head, I was so delusional thinking no one would ever know. I put my hair in a bun. I had a
Uh-huh.
white t-shirt and a jacket and pants. I had a male suit on, like
Hmm.
black male suit with a t-shirt under. And she asked me if I was transitioning. And then this person asked me if I was transitioning. And I said, no, I am not. Are you crazy?
Uh,
I was still very much afraid. But again, I think it was mostly me, not so much them. Like, I don't think my fear was founded in who they are, but like in my fear
uh-huh.
of coming out. There's a
Yes.
lot of that when we are coming out. I
Yeah.
mean, I hate coming out. I've spoken
Yeah.
to friends who say they love coming out. If that person isn't me, like I really don't like it, especially because I'm so sensitive to other people's energy.
Mm.
So if
Yeah.
there's any negativity coming my way, like I will sense it, and I'm going to go back into my shell. Uh, so I remember that that was the first like incident, work related, when I was clocked as a trans woman when I thought I was presenting fully male.
Wow,
Uh,
that's kind of, that we usually like worry about the other way around. Like we're gonna be
Yeah.
clocked as men as trans women, but you were being clocked as a trans woman while you were trying to be masculine. So, I guess
yeah, I thought I was doing a good
congratulations on
job.
that. Yeah, no, you're
I
doing a
really
good job
thought I
being
was
feminine, I
putting it
guess,
on.
right?
I mean, like my 4 months, like my boobs were so tiny. Like I didn't think anyone would see anything.
Yeah.
I wasn't even like trying to hide it because I had a jacket on.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, then I came out to my VP. She came to my office. We had a little meeting, and then she was walking out of the office. Then I said, "Listen, I need to talk to you. Like, I can't keep this in. I need to tell somebody." And then I told her, and we cried together. She hugged me,
Oh,
Aw.
and it was very comforting. And then she asked me, can I tell the owner of the company? Company is owned by a couple of uh, men and women. They are married, and
hmm.
I work with the lady more. She's responsible for the creative side of the company. And she asked, can I tell her? And I said, I guess. And she
Hmm.
told her. And then maybe a month after that, month and a half, she came to the US because she lives in Europe, in Switzerland. She came to the US and she came into my office and she looked at me, and then like her eyes were lit up with so much
Oh,
love towards me
that's
and
wonderful.
That's
acceptance.
beautiful. Yeah.
It was a very beautiful, moving experience. Like I was so fearful, and I think a lot of times we are so fearful of coming out
Yeah.
and taking those steps towards like happiness, and it's oftentimes not based in truth. Like it's the fear is just fear of the unknown, of not
Yeah.
being in control of the outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but in reality, like I was surprised, and so she actually at one point said, "Well, thank you for allowing for us to be part of this journey with you," and that's all I needed to hear. And from
Hmm.
there on, I think it took about 2 or 3 months before I announced it for the rest of the company, and I started presenting fully female, uh, and traveling as a woman and
Yeah.
everything. But then again, I during COVID, we didn't travel.
Mm-hmm.
We used to travel like a whole lot internationally and domestically, but during COVID, we weren't traveling. So a lot of the clients that had known me because I've been working for the company for 10 years prior to transitioning hadn't really met Ash yet.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's been 2 years since I came out, I'm still coming out to clients.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there was this big event, a collection launch event that we do like once a year, where all the internationals, the sales people from all the other countries come, all the other like continents, and it's a pretty big event. It's like
Mm-hmm.
about 100 people, and all these people had seen me again. They had not seen me as Ash yet. And so that was a big thing when they came and that event happened because I had to do the coming out to all of them.
Yeah.
And it was this horrific experience in my head. Like I was so fearful because I didn't know how they were going to perceive me and treat me. And again, they were very loving, every one of them. There were some that, like, they were careful to
Mm-hmm.
approach me, but again, understandable. But everybody came around and were loving, and it was fantastic. And most recently, in South Carolina, we had another event, another collection launch, but this was for the clients, not an internal one.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I was very anxious again, even though I've been living as a woman now for like, quite a bit. Uh, there were still a lot of people that had never met Ash, so I had to do more coming out. So I feel like this coming out is never gonna end.
Yeah.
Because it's been going now for like 2 years, me coming out to people.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
think
you.
it never gets easier too. Even
No, he
when you know,
doesn't.
yeah, when you know the outcome is, usually positive. Certainly we all have our negative experiences with it,
Yeah.
but I had the same at work. Where I had people come back and they've been working in a different group for a couple of years, and they come back and they see me, and I'm like, yeah, here's Olivia, and and they're like, oh, hi, and they're okay, but it's just still you get those nerves. So I can relate to that absolutely.
I mean, like, we are breaking the norms,
Yeah,
and
Mm-hmm.
change makes people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is. It's human nature. Like, we don't like discomfort. We avoid that,
Mm-hmm.
and so it is a normal thing, I guess, to expect some kind of behavior. Some people have already processed the idea. I think
Mm-hmm.
because, like, we are in vogue right now. We are the
They're
talk of
they're
the
talking
town,
about us. Yeah, absolutely.
nonstop. Yeah, so
yeah,
that's something else that's really interesting because, like, I've been here for so long, working for this company, and our U.S. office is pretty big. Like, there's about 200, 250, 300 people working in this building,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure that most of them has never met like a trans person in their lives. Uh,
That they know of.
they
yeah,
know of exactly. So like not that all of them have known me previously,
Yeah.
but I would say that a good amount of people in sales and the creative departments, marketing, have met me before. They have known me from before. So like I have taken on me since I honestly don't like the idea of being the trans person in the company.
Yeah.
Uh, because I don't perceive myself as anything different than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But I
hmm
understand that I am. I am a
Mm-hmm.
different story. I am breaking the mold. So I have taken upon me to like be the example,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because whether I want it or not, we're all like, by existing right now, I think we're all activists in a way.
yeah,
Um,
Absolutely.
you might, yeah, you might be the only person that the average person will come across that is trans that they know, and you were gonna leave an impression. So like I strive to leave a good impression and to be what they remember as what a trans person is.
Absolutely. I
Um,
talk about this with Liv all the time. You know, when you, just by being visible like you are, you're creating these ripples, right? And like every
mhm.
single person that you come in contact with now has a story about a transgender woman that they met, that they liked, that's part of their community. And when these types of new laws start to get proposed, or there's these radical politicians that want to start, you know, like dehumanizing people, they're thinking to themselves, well, what about Ash? What about Liv? What about Amber? What about all the other ones that are becoming more and more and more visible? So, yes, and I put it in my Instagram story a long time ago. Every selfie is an act of defiance, you know, and just by standing up and being visible in the workplace and meeting as many people as you can, it changes the world, you know?
Yeah, no, I think like two things. One is like, I think I told you Olivia that as well. Even though like I believe in the freedom of doing and being whatever you want, and I think that the trans girls on OnlyFans doing their thing is great.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, but I love when I see trans women in public life, like taking jobs and representing us in different segments of society.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and by that I mean like in like I've met lawyers who are trans. I've met uh, cashiers at Target that are trans, and I love that. I love that
Mm-hmm.
we are like everywhere, and I think we
Yeah.
need to be everywhere.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that we need activism as and the ones that are outspoken and fighting, like in the battlefield directly out
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
But we
Mm-hmm.
also need the average. We need to be the average person as well, as in
Yeah.
you know, like I'm a designer in the fashion industry, and then we need the lawyers. I think we need the salespeople, and we need the doctors. Like we need everything. We need to be in politics, because I think that when we are visible, it breaks down that idea that I think conservatives have put out there of like I think they use the word transgenderism
Mm-hmm.
to make it seem like an ideology, and
Mm-hmm.
when they refer to it as an ideology, it disconnects the whole idea from the person, the human being,
Absolutely.
because someone can disagree with transgenderism, but can you disagree with
A
Ash,
transgender
the
person,
trans person? Like
Yeah.
Ashley.
it
Yes.
changes it,
Mm-hmm.
it adds a human touch to it. It makes it
Mm-hmm.
more real. Uh, it's easier to disagree with an idea than with a life,
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
I think that's why I think we need to be out there and we need to be seen because we need to be perceived as regular human beings that contribute to society just like anyone else.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know?
Absolutely. The normalization of the trans family unit. That's what we need to be doing.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. It's a beautiful thing when I see that out there. Like
Oh,
when I come
absolutely.
across a trans woman that's like, you know, anything
Yes.
really.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think it's fantastic.
It is. You're
That's wonderful.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything else going good at work and everything at this point for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think again, as time kind of goes, like me being trans becomes less and less of a thing.
Yes.
Like
Absolutely.
it's less. My gender identity becomes less relevant,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
absolutely.
like that.
And this is what I give this advice to a lot of people that are transitioning, and it's like enjoy this moment because like your transition at a certain point will be over, and you will be a woman or you will be a man. You will be the identity that you want to be, and then you're just living your life. So this is a very special
Yeah,
moment that we get to go through transition, and it should be
yeah,
remembered, and hopefully one day, you know, it'll be celebrated by people as well too. You
yes.
know,
Yeah.
When
absolutely.
yeah, when people ask me for advice for
Mm-hmm.
people, well, like for people who are transitioning, I usually
Yeah.
say one, look for community because
Mm-hmm.
that's where you find
Oh my God, yeah.
knowledge and
Absolutely.
support
Yes.
that is necessary. And also another thing is like don't make being trans everything that you are because you are a full-on human being with so many layers and so much to offer, and even though our gender identity is a big part of who we are, like that is not everything.
I think I
uh
missed that memo, Ash. I really took on I really took on the transgender identity and
Yeah.
just kind of ran with it.
Yeah, no, I mean that in the point that like
I know,
I've
I know.
seen people who like started transitioning and
Yeah.
made that like their whole goal.
Yeah.
You know, oh, I need to have the surgeries. I need to start hormones. I need to do this. I
Oh,
need to
yes,
become
yes, yes,
passable.
yes. Okay,
It's in
yes.
that sense that I mean, like,
Yeah.
it became their one project for life, the only thing they had going on.
Yeah.
And then when they achieve a point in their transition when they feel like satisfied,
Mm-hmm.
like, what else do I do now? Like, it's just
Yeah.
like when you have kids and if kids grow up and move out of the house, like, what do you do now?
Yeah.
It's that sensation that I've seen happen to people that manage to fall right back into depression because they focus so much on transitioning that
Yeah.
that became the only thing about them that mattered,
Yeah.
uh, or that they focused on. So that is like what I think what I'm referring to mostly when I speak of like understanding that we are way more than just this, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Again, I
Yeah.
think that we need, as I said, that, like people who are like out there fighting, who are like activists and stuff, like
Yeah.
you can help. If you're an activist, you're going to make
Mhm.
being trans a big part, even bigger part of who you are because you're
Yeah.
fighting for that community.
Uh-huh.
But the average person, I think it's important to disconnect a little from that idea, or like, because I one thing that I don't like is being othered or being perceived as trans only. Like it's
Yes,
something
of course.
that I really don't like when that is brought up. You know, the person that I'm dating currently, like at one point when I first started dating this guy, I don't know if I should even say that because they're probably they might watch this. But like in the beginning, it's no secret. Like you know, he told them that I was trans, and
But it's you
he
know
has
oh yeah, yeah.
he has two sons, and
Okay.
the sons have wives.
Okay.
And I met his younger son first, and when they met me, not the son, but the girl, like she, you know, she would mention that all the time. She would bring it up all the time,
Yeah.
and it made me really uncomfortable because like
Yeah.
can I just be Ash,
Yeah.
the girl
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
dating your father?
Yeah.
You know, do I have to be Ash, the trans girl that's dating her father? No, I just want to be Ash. So whenever I enter a space and me being trans becomes the focus, like it makes me very uncomfortable. Because in reality, I know that I'm trans and that's a big part of me and I'm proud of it. But I'm just a girl like any other. I'm just a woman, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, my
I'm
favorite
different,
moments.
yes, but then no one is the same. We're all different.
Of course, yeah. No, my
No?
favorite moments, and I think I've even mentioned this to you, Liv, is my favorite moment is when you kind of are in those spaces where you just kind of forget you're trans for a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
and you just
Yeah.
and you just exist, and then you find, and then you when you're looking back on it, you're like, oh, that was just a really great moment of just being a human being there for a little bit, where
Absolutely,
it wasn't
yeah.
about
Yeah.
that and everything, you
Yeah.
know. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I absolutely get that totally.
Yeah. So I think that's a perspective that I'm trying to
Good.
speak of here, like existing outside of that alone, allowing
Yeah.
yourself to be more than just that, you know.
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
All
so-
right. Well, we're almost out of time.
Yeah, what do you
Oh,
got
it's been
coming
like-
up? I know it's been like
Yeah.
almost an hour now. What do you got coming up? What do you want to plug? Like, talk about yourself a little bit. This is like your opportunity.
Yeah. I want to
What
give you a
I have
plug
coming
real
up-
quick. I want to give you a plug real quick.
Okay, let's do it.
So there's 2 items. Your daughters are absolutely beautiful. One of your
Thanks so-
daughters looks exactly like you. It's
My clone.
it's amazing. Yeah, your clone. And the other one is you had mentioned the show that you went to. The what did you call it? The trunk show?
Oh, trunk
Oh.
show. It's Trunk
No.
shows are when I travel and I meet brides. I do like that say yes to the dress moment
Yeah.
with the bride.
Yeah. Maybe it was just a regular show, but you had taken pictures and they were absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, it was a
yeah,
fashion
your
show
dresses,
in
the
South
fashion show.
Carolina. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a collection lounge.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe I maybe we'll do a little plug after this and
Yeah.
and then we
I
can
can send
get
you
some
something.
photos up. Yeah,
I'm sure we could do like,
'cause I
oh,
think
her Instagram is down here on the bottom or something like that.
yeah,
We're new
I
to
think
this,
our
so I'm
people
sure.
would.
We'll, yeah, they'll figure it out. Yeah,
Yeah,
our editing
Yeah,
team.
you can definitely put that there for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
okay, but go ahead. Um, how can people reach out to you if they want to reach out to Ash and um,
on my Instagram,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And what is your
Especially
Instagram handle?
my Instagram. To be honest, I don't remember.
We'll put it
It,
in.
I think
We'll,
it's
we'll
I
put it
think
in
it's
for you.
yeah.
I think it's like
I think it's Ash.
Wharton
Uh-huh. And then
underscore Ash. Is that what it is?
yeah, Ash
I don't
Court
I know,
Ash.
know.
you know
Yeah.
what? We're going to put it up. We're going to create a graphic
Yeah.
for you. It's going to be on the
Yeah.
screen somewhere, sometime during this podcast. So they'll figure it
Yes,
out.
yes. Like
Yes.
you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We just
And
really want to
yeah,
thank you for being on the show and
I thank you guys for
telling
having
your
me. Like
story.
This
this
is
is
a
really
lot of
cool.
fun. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yes,
being
it
here.
was.
Yes, yes, for sure. Thank you so much
You
for
want
having
to take us out, Amber?
Oh, sure. Thank you, Ash, for being here. Thank you, Liv. This was a really fun experience. I think I'm gonna be hitting you up. I think we're gonna be friends, me and you, Ash. Okay.
me. Absolutely.
We're gonna
I
be
think we
besties.
already
Great.
The next time you're in Glendale, you better hit me up. By the way, too, if you're ever out
I've
here.
already,
Tell
I've
me
already,
July. I think
I've
June or
already
July.
got her
That's
to
what-
commit.
Okay. Oh, good.
So
Oh,
next
good.
time she's
Oh,
out,
awesome.
we're going.
That's
We're gonna
birthday
connect.
time. That's Leo
Yeah.
season.
Let's hit WeHo and go have fun.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Abbey. Let's do it. Okay, we're all
Yeah.
gonna be at the Abbey sometime in June or July. Book your flights. We're gonna do a big old party.
Amen. Let's do
There
it.
we go.
Okay,
All right,
well, thank
Ash.
you so much for joining us.
Thank
We're gonna
you.
be right back after this little break, and yeah, we'll talk to you in just a moment. Hi, it's Amber, your favorite podcast host. And don't worry, I won't tell Liv. Since we're still having a hard time finding actual sponsors for the pod, I wanted to talk to you again about our Trans Pride Apple Watch band for the Apple Watch. Last time, I touched on the fact that $10 from each sale goes directly towards the Trevor Project, and I'm happy to announce that the Out of Our Shell community has raised $3,000 so far. All of these dollars go towards the at-risk services that the Trevor Project provides. Some of these services include their at-risk crisis counselors that are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I wanted to give those resources today for our listeners. Not only can you go online directly to thetrevorproject.org, but you can also call them at 1-866-488-7386. And if you don't want to call them, or you might be in a situation where you might need privacy, you can even text them anonymously at 678-678. So if this is a project that you feel like you'd like to get behind, please go out and visit us at Etsy and find out more at outofourshell.etsy.com, and know that your dollars are going towards a good cause. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the pod.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I just want to talk a little bit about the interview with you, Amber.
Yeah.
I think it went well. I think, we definitely got that community feel with Ashley. She definitely shared quite a bit. And what did you think about that?
I think one of the things that I love hearing about these stories, and I think it's probably going to end up being a common theme as we talk with so many of these people moving forward, just because I kind of know what the end of everyone's story, or at least like where we're at right now with most of them, is that there's so much fear going into transition, right? We're going to lose everything, whether it be, financial resources, our ability to like live in society, all these types of things. But at the end of the day, so many trans stories have happy endings, and they're not all perfect, right? Like some of us lose our parents, some of us lose our significant other, some of us may have difficulties at work, and we all have different challenges that we do have to get through transition. But ultimately, the story always ends on the other side of the rainbow, where it's much happier, and where everybody's in a better place with their mental health. They're better parents. They're better coworkers. They can be better partners to people that are able to support them. So I hope that that's a message that we can kind of communicate as we move forward, is that transition's a beautiful thing and has a beautiful
Absolutely,
ending
yeah.
to it, you know, as you move through it. So, what about you, Liv? What did you gather out of all that?
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on the happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I like to say that it's a difficult journey, but it's a fulfilling journey.
Mm-hmm.
And you might lose a spouse. It happens. What I got from Ashley was that it's possible to lose your spouse and still be able to co-parent and not have that tension. And, depending on where the tension comes from, I just think it would be good for other people to see that and possibly change on their end, on how they approach someone's transition.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, yeah, I think it was, it's good.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we record our podcasts at night, and it is getting very, very cold right now in Out of Our Shell Studios. So that's all the time that we have for today. I want to thank our guest, Ash Costa, for joining us, and we're going to talk to all of you next week on Out of Our Shell, the podcast. So on behalf of Liv and myself, we'd like to remind you to follow your joy because it can never lead you in the wrong direction. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Hey there, come out of your shell. Hey there, come out of your shell.
Don't forget to subscribe.